Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. It's our Tuesday night Tanak and news briefing. The 21st of July, 2026. Okay, our main topic will be it's a warning that goes out to white America to buckle up for the worst is yet to come. Okay, we're going to deal with that. You can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening, check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. These videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. It'd be greatly appreciated. We have our Cash App at the bottom of the screen for those that want to support this channel, help it move along. That too will be greatly appreciated. And for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanak and the Torah. Tanak being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrances from Genesis to Malachi. We don't subscribe to the New Testament, the Greek New Testament. We don't subscribe to the JC, the Greek God of the New Testament, Paul, the apostles, the church fathers. That's of a Gentile Greek persuasion. We don't deal with it, okay? And then the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that were given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer and our Deliverer, the Lord of hosts. This channel was created to aid and assist our Hebrews who are waking up in these last days to their true identity and understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our Tuesday Tanakh news briefing. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, or psalms, and then our topic for discussion, like I just mentioned, is a warning goes out to white America that they need to buckle up for the worst is coming in accordance to them and to prophecy. Okay, then we go into our Tanakh news briefing. Okay, and then we'll pick a scripture like we normally do at the end, and then we're gonna do our Q&A at the end of the class. For anybody have any questions and comments in the dialogue, we'll open up the line for anybody having questions or comments with our link. Okay. So with that being said, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Oh Lord, we come before Thee, bow down, honoring You and praising You and believing in You. We thank You for Your wisdom and Your knowledge that You have poured out upon us, and through Your prophets, You have revealed the times that we as Jacob's children will endure. Keep us, O Lord, guide us and deliver us. And we see You now within the Holy Scriptures, O Lord, and we trust You, O Lord, with all our heart and our soul. Keep not that silence, and shine forth on our enemies with Thy power and Thy great glory. Peace be unto You. Okay. With that being said, read a little song right quick. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I'll read Psalm 7. It's a prayer for deliverance. It's a Psalm of David. Okay. Lord, O Lord my God, in Thee do I put my trust. Save me from all them that persecute me and deliver me, lest He tear my soul like a lion, rending it in pieces, while there is none to deliver. O Lord my God, if I have done this, if there be iniquity in my hands, if I have rewarded evil unto him that was at peace with me, yea, I have delivered him that without cause is mine enemy. Let the enemy persecute my soul and take it, yea, let him tread down my life upon the earth and lay my honor in the dust. Selah. Arise, O Lord, in Thine anger. Lift up Thyself because of the rage of my enemies, and awake for me to the judgment that thou hast commanded. So shall the congregation of the people compass thee about. For their sake, therefore return thou on high. The Lord shall judge the people. Judge me, O Lord, according to my righteousness and according to my integrity that is in me. O let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end, but establish the just. For the righteous God trieth the hearts and the reins. My defense is of God, which saveth the upright in heart. God judgeth the righteous, and God is angry with the wicked every day. If he turn not, he with his sword, he have bent his bow and made it ready. He have also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors. Behold, he travaileth with iniquity, and he hath conceived mischief and brought forth falsehood. He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealings shall come down upon his own plate. And I will praise the Lord according to his righteousness, and I will sing praises to the name of the Lord Most High. So that was Psalms chapter 7, and it's a prayer for deliverance. Okay, any comments on that? Like anything? Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go to our topic for discussion, right? And like I said, this is a warning to white America of the things to come. So we're going to check it out and line it up with scripture. Okay.
And the Jews believe that they are the chosen people, and they are God's, the Yahweh's favorite people. And the highlight or the apex of their civilization was King David's kingdom, the Davidic kingdom, and King Solomon. Okay, and this is when King Solomon built Solomon's temple, which was a house of God. And this was where Yahweh lived to be with his people. But unfortunately, the Jewish people were not loyal. They were unfaithful. So they started to marry foreign women, which brought in foreign gods. Then Yahweh became annoyed, angry at the infidelity of the Jews. So he left. And this allowed invaders such as the Babylonians and Assyrians to conquer Jerusalem. And eventually this led to the Jewish diaspora, the scattering of the Jews. But even in the diaspora, they longed to return to Jerusalem to be reunited with their God. And in the Jewish tradition, what the rabbis tell the Jewish people is, when God is ready, when the Jewish people are ready for this reunion, the Messiah will come. The Messiah will lead the Jewish people back to the Promised Land. He will build the nation of Israel, and he will summon the diaspora to return to Israel, and he will build the third temple so that God will come. Eventually, he will face his enemies in the war of Gog and Magog, but he will triumph, and this will usher in the Messianic age. So as Jewish people, our main responsibility is to reflect deeply on who we are, engage in spiritual alchemy, and once we engage in a long process of redemption, and once our hearts open up to God, then God will send us Messiah. So be a good person and wait and be patient. Okay, so that's the standard mainstream Jewish understanding. But then you have these extremists who believe that is not God's intention. God's intention is for the Jews to prove that they love God and they desire reunion with God. And so it must be the Jews to act out first before God sends his Messiah. And that means you must first resurrect, reconstitute the nation of Israel. You must build the third temple. You must fight the war of Gog and Magog. And when the Jews have done all they can, but the entire world seems to have united against Jews, because that's what the world does, actually, unite against Jews. And when God sees that his people are in most desperate need, but he sees that his people have redeemed themselves, have repented, and yearn for reunion with God, then God will intervene and set the world right. And that is when the Messianic age will occur. But you must first make the sacrifice necessary in order to welcome the Messiah and the coming of Yahweh. Okay, so you can see how in the first iteration, yeah, it's interesting, but in the second iteration, there's sort of a passion, an energy, an excitement to it, where it's just like, wow, this is grand historical script being played out. It's all part of God's divine plan. And I can play my part in achieving this divine plan. So why shouldn't I? If I'm truly faithful, if I truly believe in God, if I want to prove myself worthy, shouldn't I do my part to achieve this plan? Okay? So does the Jewish eschatology make sense to you?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I do want to clarify for people that you're not saying that these eschatologies are necessarily real. You're saying that this is what the people believe, so it changes the way that they act, and that's how you use it to predict the future. Do you think it's important for people to understand the law of eschatological convergence to understand how you predict the future?
Sure. Okay. So there's the different eschatologies. Okay. So I just mentioned the Jewish eschatology, but there are others. There's the Orthodox eschatology. There's the Catholic one. There's the Protestant one, the Christian Zionist one. There's the Mormon one. Okay. There's a Freemason one. So there are all these different eschatologies out there. And what's really interesting is at certain points they converge together, meaning they align at certain points, meaning that these are different religious traditions. Again, we're talking only about a minority, these extremists, right? Maybe 1% of the entire cohort, okay? But these are the most energetic, they're the most unified, they're the most determined, right? And if they're working together to achieve a certain script, and if the script is similar at certain points, then you can be certain or confident that these things will turn out. Because at the end of the day, we're the players in this grand historical narrative. So what we do is what determines the history. So that certain people have already been drafted. I think by 2027, ICE will be much more powerful than people imagine. I think they want to deploy National Guard to all major cities in America because they're preparing for economic collapse, they're preparing for financial collapse, they're preparing for the national draft. They will need law enforcement and National Guard in all the major cities, especially in democratic cities like Los Angeles and Boston and Chicago, where they expect the resistance to be the greatest. By 2027, all the ingredients for civil war should already be in place. I don't mean actually, two militaries fighting each other, but I'm saying like nationwide discontent and riots and protests and insurgencies. Okay, so this is going to be low-level conflict, but it's going to be what the civil war will look like for the next few years. So the global economy should have collapsed by 2027. So JP Morgan has reports saying that the world will run out of oil by the end of this month.
And that's because of the closing of the Strait.
That's right, because of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. But the problem of the world is that people are used to efficiency, which is to say getting resources as cheaply and as quickly as possible. And the entire world is structured around efficiency. And the problem, though, is that efficiency and resilience are at odds with each other. So the example is just-in-time inventory, right? So companies don't have inventory because they don't want to bear the cost of inventory. So they just use just-in-time supply chains, meaning like you will only keep this thing in place for a couple of days before you ship it to another place. But what happens if there's a chokehold, right, on the supply network, like the Strait of Hormuz? Well, then your entire system implodes because there's not enough inventory to go around. People aren't stocked up on necessities, right? So this crisis that we're seeing in the global economy will only get worse. And it's going to extend to every aspect of life, where you think, okay, well, I don't drive a car or I don't fly a plane for next year. Like, no. That's not how these things work, man. Cheap energy is the foundation of the entire modern global economy. So it's not just travel, it's also food, man. It's possible to start rationing food. So a few days ago, Prime Minister Albanese of Australia and Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK start to address their nations. And basically their point is, and it's very subtle language, but their point is, buckle up, guys. Okay, because right now it's gonna be food shortages, but imagine if there are food rationing going on, right? So this is a world that's unimaginable for most people, but it's a world of limited resources. It's a world of resource conflict, and it's a world in transition of collapse. So buckle up.
Would you predict that by the end of 2027 will be the destruction of Al-Aqsa?
Yeah, okay. So let's go into what we know about Al-Aqsa so far. Okay, so there was a Jewish rabbi who's very well known in Israel, but last June, during the 12-day war between Israel, United States, and Iran, he said basically, wow, this war would be the perfect opportunity to stage a false flag operation where the Iranian missile is flying over Al-Aqsa Mosque. We demolish it and we blame it on the Iranians. Then the Persians and the Arabs would go to war against each other, and we could laugh our heads off. What a great way to resolve the conflict in the Middle East. Okay, so that's one piece of evidence. Another piece of evidence is the idea of the red heifer. And so the Jews, the Messianic Jews, want to rebuild Solomon's temple, build a third temple. But to do so, you need to consecrate the ground. So you need to make a red heifer sacrifice. But according to the Bible, the red heifer has to be perfect. And so there's this guy, this farmer in Texas, who spent years and years, millions of dollars, genetically engineering perfect red heifers. Then he shipped them to Israel. And so once they have Al-Aqsa destroyed, they make the red heifer sacrifice and then build the third temple. Okay, the third temple itself has already been designed and built, brick by brick. There's something called the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, and they have built the third temple. And all they do is move the third temple from the current location to the Al-Aqsa Mosque location. So this can happen right away.
Okay.
That's another piece of evidence.
Also,
we know that there have been archaeological digs under the Al-Aqsa Mosque these past 2 years. So if you want to control demolition, right? Well, that's what you do. You pretend it's an archaeological dig. You implant explosives under the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then you pretend it's an Iranian missile, and then you blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then problem solved, right? It's not, we didn't do it. It was the Iranians who blew it up. Then you had Netanyahu last week say that an Iranian missile was just so close to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And he said, oh, it was so close, and there's a great danger that the Iranians will blow up all these holy sites, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Western Wall, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The Iranians are not crazy, so watch out. It could happen, okay? So you have all these things lined up, and you have to believe that given the fact that right now Israel is run by these religious fanatics, given the fact that for decades these religious fanatics in America, the Christian Zionists, have been supporting Israel, given the fact that this war provides perfect pretext and excuse to destroy the Abrahamic mosque, they'll probably try something, okay? But when, I can't say. It could be 2027. It determines on how the war goes. And also, like, the thing about these religious people is they believe in astrology, they believe in numerology, okay? So if they were to do this, there has to be a ritual, there has to be a astrological alignment. Right. So they haven't planned it out, but like I don't have access to this information, so I can't tell you. But they probably haven't planned it out, and they'll probably enact a ritual involving a false flag in order to destroy the Isaac Mosque. That's my guess.
That part really fascinates me, and I think we'll touch into that later in the interview. But what would that trigger theoretically, the destruction of Al-Aqsa Mosque?
Right. So I think they've already telegraphed the plan, which is like they'll pretend it's an Iranian missile.
Yeah.
And then they'll do a controlled demolition of the mosque. And they'll blame it on the Iranians. And at this point, the war will be so confusing because Americans have sent in ground troops. And the war is raging on multiple fronts, where the Iranians are also destroying the oil refineries, the desalination plants of the Middle East. The whole world, especially Africa, is in terrible economic is in a terrible economic situation. There might be a food shortage in Africa. There could be a famine in Africa, and so the entire world is sort of like distracted, right? So then the Al-Aqsa Mosque is bombed, and like people are like, what was that? What is the Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? Because like people don't have enough food to eat. There's rioting in the streets. The grocery stores are empty. Right? People are like, okay, well, you know, I don't have a job and my bank account has gone to zero and there's no food and like everyone's fighting each other. Like who cares if the Isaac Mosque?
Right. Because it was an accidental destruction in theory. Do you think we're heading toward nuclear warfare?
I am convinced nuclear weapons will not be used in this war. And the reason why is, according to game theory, Iran, Israel, and the United States do not benefit at all from the use of tactical nuclear weapons. Okay, so let's go with Iran, okay? Iran could, in 3 weeks, build 10 nuclear devices because they have the uranium, and the technology to build a nuclear weapon is actually open source. You can actually go online and build and find this information, okay? It's not that hard. If Pakistan can build a nuclear weapon, so can Iran, okay? So, but Iran's not going to do that. And the reason why is that for them, it's very important to maintain the moral high ground. And also, the only way they can lose this war is if nukes start flying, right? So you have 10 nukes, okay, you might destroy Israel, but then America has thousands of nuclear weapons to destroy you, right? So that's not strategic. And the Iranians have demonstrated that they are very strategic and very thoughtful in their actions. They've shown a lot of restraint in this war so far. Okay, so Iran's not that interested in using nuclear weapons. They probably don't even want a nuclear weapon. Okay, Israel is getting all at once, right? Because Israel is trying to achieve the Greater Israel Project. It's trying to control the Middle East. So it needs America and Iran to destroy each other. Right now, they're trying to target Iran's critical civilian infrastructure, including desalination plants, including power plants. In fact, Donald Trump has threatened to blow up every single power plant in Iran if he's losing this war. Recently, I think yesterday, really, the Americans blew up a civilian bridge. Okay, so as this war escalates, the Americans are going to blow up every single piece of critical civilian infrastructure in Iran, including bridges, power plants, reservoirs, desalination plants. So that's going to take a few years for Iran to recover. So Iran's not going to be a threat to Israel in the long term. Okay, America will send in ground troops into Iran at some point to win this war, and it'll be a quagmire for the Americans. They might send 100,000, they might send 500,000, who knows? But regardless of how many they send in, they're still going to lose the war because Iran is much too big and the Iranians are much too determined, right? So it'll be like another Vietnam, in which case the Americans are forced out of the Middle East. And CENTCOM, the entire American military infrastructure then goes to Israel, right? Israel now becomes the dominant power in the Middle East. So from Israel's perspective, you don't even want to win this war. You don't even want to participate in this war. You just want America and Iran to duke it out for as long as possible, right? So why use nuclear weapons? Okay. The United States is, if you're Donald Trump, you're trying to rebuild America, and you don't really care actually what happens in the Middle East. You win this war, great. You lose this war, I can deal with that. You care more about what happens in America. You care about using the national draft. You care about ICE. You care about election tampering in order to consolidate your power in America. That's the thing about war. War drives political transformation. And so Peter Hegseth yesterday fired 3 top military generals. You can do that in a war because they're not obeying you. They're not following their orders, right? So war is a great mechanism of political transformation. And that's what Donald Trump is focused on, right? So you want to drag this war out as long as possible because that gives you more power, right? So there was a press conference between Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump. And basically, a reporter asked Zelensky, hey, when are you going to retire, man? You've been president for how long? And Zelensky's like, well, we're in a war, so we've suspended the Constitution. Donald Trump's like, you can actually do that? And Zelensky said to him, oh, yeah, you like that, don't you? Right? So he's telegraphing to you his intentions. They're not joking here, right? So the longer this war drags on, the more that America is mired down in the Middle East, the more Donald Trump benefits politically and personally. So why would he use nuclear weapons?
Professor Zhang, a lot of what you predict is driven by economics. So before we get into your next major prediction, you said money is alchemy used by the elites to enslave us.
Sure.
Why do you think consumerism is the perfection of slavery, and why do you see money as alchemy?
Okay. All right. So this is a really complicated question, okay? So I want to introduce 2 philosophers to help us structure our discussion. The first is Immanuel Kant. What Immanuel Kant says is that there's no objective reality. Everything is a creation of our imagination, right? So he differentiates between noumena and phenomena. Noumena are the things in themselves. The phenomena are the things to us. And so what we do every day is we participate in reality. We create reality because we filter reality using time and space. So time and space exists to us. They are what is called the ego. But time and space don't actually exist outside of us. And so that's a really important idea to understand, that reality is a hallucination. It's a collective creation. So whatever we imagine reality it to be, reality becomes. Okay, so that's the first idea. Second idea is Plato's cave. So in his book, The Republic, Plato writes about the allegory of the cave. So imagine a cavern, and everyone, about 1 million people, are living there. They're all lined up one by one, staring at a wall. Okay, and they're chained to this wall, and their necks are shackled down. So they can't even move their necks to look around them. They can only stare directly into the wall. And behind them are some people, they, okay? Plato never clarifies who they are. Doesn't really matter who they are. But what they do is there's a fire behind them, and they take puppets and they reflect these puppets onto the wall. And so the only thing we can see is the wall, right? So we see these shadows, and we think that this is reality itself. We know that, you and I know better, but the people inside the cave, because they've never been outside, they've never seen sunlight, they don't understand the concept of shadows. So they think these shadows are reality itself. And so what they do is they give names to these shadows. They create stories out of these shadows. They create a religion out of these shadows. So what the shadows are a way to structure and direct and focus our attention. And in our world, that's what money is. Okay? Money is alchemy. It doesn't exist outside of us. It's only because we believe it has value. It has value. So now the question is, how did we get to this system? How was this system created? Well, believe it or not, but for the longest time, money was not an issue for people. So, for example, let's go to the Vikings. If you're a Viking, what you did was you spent most of your time farming or fishing, but now and then you and your mates got together and you go and raided an Irish village or an English village for fun. Okay, and you would target monasteries because in monasteries there was a lot of gold. They would print books, and then the book covers would have a lot of gold, especially Bibles. And then they would take this gold and maybe sell it. They might capture some slaves, and then they would sell it to the Ottomans or the Byzantines, whoever, okay? And so they would make a lot of money in these raids. The moment they got back home, they spent all this money on a feast for the community. And that's like literally how people spent their money. They didn't save it because there was no point, right? I mean, you could save your money by digging a hole and putting all the gold in the ground, but why would you do that? That was pointless. What you cared about was your reputation among your peers. What you cared about was a community. What you cared about was leaving a legacy, a memory. And then, so the memory was not money. The memory was the stories. And that's why they went and raided these Irish villages and these British villages. Not because they wanted the gold. The gold was useful, but what was more useful to them was the stories that they could tell their friends about how they went over and killed a lot of people and did all these amazing things. That to the community, that you're a good person, right? Because before it was about storytelling, like how good of a storyteller were you? Now it's about wealth creation. How good of a businessman are you? Right? The crazy, the fanatics, but they had access to transnational capital. They were financed by Wall Street. And so during the Bolshevik Revolution, transnational capital was bankrolling them so that they could hire mercenaries to fight the war. They could bribe foreign governments not to intervene. They could pay off generals of the white armies, and that's how they won the war, with the help of transnational capital. So this dichotomy between capitalism and communism, it's all a false dialectic. It's meant to deceive you. Ultimately, what transnational capital is interested in is in seeking better investment opportunities. And Bolshevism made Russia a better investment opportunity for transnational capital, right? Because before you had the Tsar, you had the Orthodox Church, and both were opposed to transnational capital. They saw it as the Antichrist system. They still call it the Antichrist system. Are you?
What you got? Got anything on that?
Shalom, brother Leonard. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, it's low.
Yeah, man, it's acting up. Well, a lot of what Jane was saying is adding up right now, especially with the Noahide laws and all that going into play. It's adding up to with all the things he is saying with the economy, with the famine and all of that.
Exactly.
Yes, so you can see that causing it.
Right. It's happening right now.
Right.
We in the midst of it. Yeah. Like you said, white America need to buckle down because we at that point. Because it's not about Israel, true Israel. It's about it's judgment time for the things they've done to the Most High people, and him aligning his people, bringing them back. That's where we at. So in order for him to bring us back, you got to bring them down, and that's where we at. Okay. You notice how he said the temple that Allah Samas is going to come down. I mean, you can look at that and see that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, shalom, brother Leonard. When when you see how he said the temple is already built, they just got to
Oh
move.
yeah, that too. Yeah, well, yeah. I was saying that. If you go back at, they've been showing that to us forever and a day. Look at Elon Musk. He got this company called Boxable.
Right. Okay.
You see how they have a house, how they can just come and within the 2-3 hours they put a house up.
Yes, sir.
It's already done. They just got to bring it to the location and go up with it.
Right.
So
Sir.
that only makes sense right there with what they're doing. And the other day, the reason I played the video on the meeting they're supposed to have in Israel about the Noahide laws and the images they showed of the temple, that's what it looked like.
Right.
Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, it all makes sense because, like he said, when it happens, it's gonna be overnight. They already got it all set up. And then you got to look at where they at as far as the world. The world will turn against them. They're not gonna be able to sit there and build no temple, drag it out for no 2 years, 3 or 4 years to build a temple. They gotta when the time presents itself, they gotta pop it up and then set it in motion.
Right. Sir.
And they make all the sense in the world.
Right.
Yeah. You got anything else on that?
Shalom, brother Leonard. Just that. And then even too, like how those like you said, how it come in pieces. Elon Musk company, and
Right.
that's probably like this how how they're building the temple. It kind of remind me too, brother Leonard, of a perverted way, but just how the tabernacle was able to be taken down and then
Right.
put back, so that it kind of remind me of that.
Right. It's like a cross in between what Solomon built and what they in the tabernacle in the wilderness.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's something. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and go into our Tuesday Tanak and news briefing. Okay, like I said, the reason why I came up with this was to being knowing where we at in the Yahweh's prophecies and his what he's doing these last days. We are combining the Tanakh with current events and with the end times, and then discussing it, laying it out where people can get a better understanding of what's going on and where we at, and how that they need to start getting their stuff in order and aligning themselves because of the time is actually already ran out. It's just a matter of waiting on the Most High to do what He's going to do. Okay, and these people forcing His hand too, also. Okay, so here go the first one. I thought this was ridiculous, but we'll check it out.
Jersey, where this World Cup match had the booze raining down when he walked out with FIFA's president. When Spain was celebrating its victory, you could see Trump sort of lingering on stage. Australian broadcasters also discussing whether he'd stay in the photos.
In 2026, the champions of the world are Spain!
So they can edit him out of that. They can edit him out of that. That's real-time commentary, and it happened.
So when Spain won the World Cup, Trump tried to get in the picture and try to show up, and they escorted him away, and the crowd booed him. So that's not that's definitely not good.
And as Forbes reported, the FIFA World account posted this shot where, if you look closely, you can see the leader of the free world's right arm getting cropped. Now, Trump's unpopularity abroad is well known, but again, this was a match held, and the boos you hear are inside the United States. His approval stuck in the 30s over the war, as we were covering at the top of the show, the economy, and other failures. Republicans close to the operation say it's time to make the midterms a kind of, quote, hate election. Republicans admit, Axios reports, the midterm forecast is bleak. But if they can just make voters hate Dems more than Republicans, maybe the losses won't be as bad.
There we go.
I want to bring in a special guest. Brian Tyler Cohen is the host of the No Lie podcast, which has billions of views online. He's interviewed all kinds of heavyweights across the Democratic Party, including that rare get in American politics, a recent sit-down with former President Obama.
We've seen the de-evolution of the discourse. How do we come back from a place that we have fallen into?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that the majority of the American people find this behavior deeply troubling. It is true that it gets attention. It's true that it's a distraction.
Cohen is also the author of the new book, The Day After: How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. You can get that right now wherever books are sold. Brian is one of these new voices that we've been listening to. As you know, the world keeps evolving. Welcome back.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, the top story here relates to your book. So reading from a passage, you talk about how before 2024, this duality that Bill Clinton had discussed, strong and wrong, was beating weak and right. You say you could say that demonizing the opposition is bad for the country. You can't say it's worse than Trump's presidency. The truth is Republicans have been playing the long game, Dems playing the wrong game. Bars, Brian. And you go on to write, why are Dems so far behind with this kind of politics? It works. Look at the two times Dems did play hardball. You point to 96 and 2012, where the campaigns really did diminish their opponents, sailing to victory, rather than the talk we've heard so often about going high. How does that apply today when we see these reports, everything from abuse of power, revenge indictments, ICE at the polls, to a propaganda campaign that Axios reports would be just about hating Dems?
Well, look, they have run that playbook over and over and over again, and largely it's been successful. I mean, how many elections can you remember, Ari, where Republicans had deferred to this idea of migrant caravans or demonizing gay people or trans people, as was the case in this latest election? There's always some minority to punch down on, always some scapegoat. That's the problem. That's the cause of all of our woes, as opposed to the people who are actually causing a lot of the problems in this country, who in large part are the millionaires and billionaires who benefit from the policies of this administration. It is notable that you have Republicans who continuously run on punching down on these small minorities, but at the same time, the first thing they do is pass tax cuts, for example, that heap benefits onto the wealthiest Americans in this country, as we see income inequality explode. Have largely been locked out of power forever. And frankly, some of the millennials that are getting into office now are the most popular politicians in America, whether it's Zohar Mamdani in New York, whether it's AOC also in New York, whether it's John Ossoff down in Georgia. This is what happens when you actually make a bridge to the next generation and allow people who are more charismatic, more dynamic, more articulate, more tech savvy to have their spot in the spotlight, have their chance in the spotlight to actually show what they can do. And so I think this should be a blinking red light to existing members of the Democratic caucus that if you stand for the things that you claim to stand for, make way for people who are going to be more effective arbiters, more effective shepherds of that exact message, because the people who are seeing popularity, the people who are able to better relate to the electorate, are those younger people who've grown up in these ecosystems where the vast majority of Americans are already getting their news.
Okay, what you think? Like I said, he's telling you, midterm is going to be a disaster. Okay, and they got to do something about it. Got any comments on that?
Right, Shalom, yes, sir. Just because him getting booed just shows, like you've been talking about, his approval rating and all of that. And so, yeah, him getting booed, they was hosting the little World Cup. He tried to, get in there and get some shine for them hosting it. But it's like your country still didn't win, though. So he was all in the way anyway. But so him being arrogant or narcissistic or whatever, you know, that also showed too. So that's also why he got booed.
Oh yeah, exactly. Right. So they're not just booing him; it's the whole Trump administration and the Republican Party. They got a problem with him, and they got to do something when the midterms come. If they're gonna stay on float.
Most of the headlines today are treating this like just another political spat. But if what Netanyahu just said is true, it means Iran already had an atomic bomb. And if it's not true, then the
They're setting up that what old boy was just talking about the Al-Aqsa.
Prime Minister of Israel just told a lie that changes the entire Middle East. Let me explain the part everyone's missing. And look, stuff like this gets quiet real fast. So if you want to keep hearing the parts the big networks skip, go ahead and subscribe. That's the whole point of this channel. So there's a claim that dropped out of Israel yesterday that's so big, so audacious, so dangerous, that most of the American press is still trying to figure out how to even cover it. And I want to walk you through exactly what was said, because the way this is being reported right now, it's missing the whole point. Benjamin Netanyahu gave an interview to Channel 14 in Israel. It wasn't a speech, wasn't an official White House style address. It was a sit down, a conversation. And in that conversation, he made a claim he has never made before. He said that Iran already obtained a nuclear weapon. He said that he personally ordered 2 military attacks on Iran to stop them from using those weapons against Israel. Let me say that again. Iran already obtained the bomb. He said, and I'm paraphrasing his exact words from the interview, that Iran got the atomic bomb and that his actions saved Israel from destruction. He used the word destruction. Now, here's where it gets complicated, and I mean genuinely messy. I don't know who to believe complicated. Because within hours, 3 separate people went public to say he's lying. 3. Former IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot said, and this is a direct quote, Iran never obtained nuclear weapons. Straight up, no hedging. No, we don't have confirmation. He said never. Former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett also disputed it. And a source familiar with the matter told Haaretz that Netanyahu's claim is a complete lie. Complete lie. So you have the sitting Prime Minister of Israel on one side, and you have his former military chief, his political predecessor, and an anonymous source inside the defense establishment, all saying the opposite, all saying he just made it up. Now ask yourself, why would he do that? I mean, really think about it. This isn't some minor exaggeration. This isn't we almost had a deal. This isn't they were close. He said they had it, past tense, already obtained. He said he saved the country from atomic annihilation. If that's true, it's the most significant intelligence failure in modern Middle Eastern history. It means the IAEA was wrong. It means the US intelligence community was wrong. It means the entire framework of sanctions, negotiations, the JCPOA, everything was meaningless. But if it's not true, if he made it up, then what is he doing? Because here's the thing about Netanyahu. He doesn't say things by accident. He's been in power for more than a decade and a half, on and off. He doesn't do casual. He doesn't do loose talk. When he opens his mouth, there's a strategy behind it. And this claim, this specific explosive claim, comes at a very particular moment. Netanyahu's political position right now is, well, let's just say it's not comfortable. There's protest movements. There's international pressure. There's a war in Gaza that won't end cleanly. There's a looming confrontation with Hezbollah up north. And there's the nuclear file, the one file that has always defined his political identity. Do you remember when Netanyahu gave that speech to Congress back in 2015? The one about the Iran deal? He stood there and warned everyone that Iran was just years away from a bomb. He said the deal paved their path to nuclear weapons. He was basically the global face of the Stop Iran movement. And now he's saying they already got there. The deal didn't stop them. Nothing stopped them. But he did. He personally. It's a very convenient claim. Look, I'm not saying I know the truth. I wasn't in the room. I don't have access to Israeli intelligence. But I know how politics works. And I know how memory works. And I know that when a leader makes a claim this big, this dramatic, this late in the game, you have to ask, who benefits? It becomes survival. So when Netanyahu says Iran already obtained the bomb, he's not just talking to the Israeli public. He's talking to Washington. He's talking to the Pentagon. He's talking to the White House. He's saying the time for diplomacy is over. The time for waiting is over. The time for action is now. And he's saying it in a way that makes it very hard for anyone to disagree without looking weak or naive. Things that his own military leaders deny. That's not sustainable. That's not governance. That's chaos. But Netanyahu has survived worse. He's survived corruption allegations. He's survived political crises. He's survived wars. What's the cost of going to war based on a lie? And if he's telling the truth and we treat his claim as false, what's the cost of that? What's the cost of ignoring a legitimate threat? What's the cost of failing to act? These are the questions that keep diplomats up at night. And they're the questions that should be at the center of this debate. Not, did Iran get the bomb? But what do we do with the information we have? And I think that's where Netanyahu has us. He's created a situation where we have to act on his claim, even if we don't trust it.
Okay, what you think about that?
Shalom, brother Leonard. It's the conflict
is seeking better investment opportunities. And Bolshevism made Russia.
Go ahead.
It's Shalom. It just seemed like kind of seemed like they might actually have some strife.
Iranian
Trump and Netanyahu, rather.
Right. So let's go and say it again.
Like they might actually have some strife. Like they might have a problem. Yeah.
Right. So like another thing you got to look at on that, for him to say that, I think he's leaning toward them using nuclear weapons.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? He's saying they got it, and so he's gonna have to use it to keep them from using it.
Right.
Which to me, you know, they, like he said, he ain't saying it for no reason at all. It's a reason behind it.
Right.
And America tied into it. They're trying to act as if they're not. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. Check this out.
Assassinate Trump. According to the Wall Street Journal, with new reporting this hour, Israel shared new intelligence with the U.S., which suggests Iran was plotting a new plan to kill President Trump. Now, Israel is not commenting thus far, but President Trump did bring this topic up multiple times yesterday. It was clearly on his mind. He talked about how his life could be at risk and mentioned specifically that he is Iran's top target.
They want to take out the U.S. leader, me. I'm on every list. I saw things this morning. I'm on every single one of their lists. I'm number one on the kill list for Iran. They're lovely people. I'm number one. I may be gone too, because I'm their number one target. It's out all over the place. I'm their number one because they're scum.
Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against
I try all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go. Right?
Now you see him there speaking on a plane here in that last clip. That was on board Air Force One, the old Air Force One, right? That he's gotten rid of because he has the new $400 million presidential jet that he was given by a foreign country, Middle Eastern country, Qatar. According to 4 U.S. officials, the reason Trump was forced to swap the jets while he was at the NATO event in Turkey was because of security concerns. 2 official sources tell CNN that the newer plane did not possess the same capabilities to ensure its quote-unquote safety in international settings. Well, it came as threats against Trump's life were quite visible at the funeral for the Iranian former supreme leader. We saw the funeral today. We've seen these days and days. We've been showing them to you. I think that if you can read, this becomes clear. It reads, "We will kill Trump." Massive, massive banner. And then, of course, there are smaller ones people are carrying, which read, "Kill Trump." Maggie, Trump has talked often about Iran targeting him. Yesterday, he talked about it repeatedly. And now, of course, the reporting is that there had been a specific warning from Israel about a plot yesterday. What do you think, knowing Trump, his response will be in the context of a war where a ceasefire is already technically off right now?
It's hard to say, Aaron, and I don't have any independent reporting about this latest threat, but it is correct, as you say. He has been under threat before from Iran for a very long time, going back to 2020. It is not a surprise. It may or may not have something to do with why there was the switch on the plane that he took to fly out of Turkey yesterday to lead the G7. He ended up going back to the old Air Force One, and obviously there's more to learn here. Whether it is going to make him make a different decision in terms of Iran, he has been more hawkish on Iran this entire time than most of his team. We get into that in detail in the book, and we explain how it was really always there to see if his advisors wanted to. Throughout term one, he was that way, even before he ordered the strike on General Soleimani, which is part of why he is a top target for Iran now. But his choices really, unless he wants to engage in a massive escalation, Aaron, are pretty limited. The U.S. munitions are depleted after this war. He does not want to send in boots on the ground. I think he would do that as a very last resort. So we'll see.
What more are you learning about this new intelligence that Israel shared with the U.S. about an Iranian plan to assassinate President Trump?
Yeah, so what we know is that Israel recently shared this fresh intelligence. It says that it indicates that there was a plan that Iran was contemplating to kill Trump, and this would help to explain some of his behavior. And I think some of the statements that you guys played. We also saw, the chants at the funeral. And what's important to note is that these 2 men have been speaking, very frequently during the war. And they had late night phone calls, and they would talk about intelligence and targets, and the relationship recently soured.
So Trump did seem to, as you point out, right? He brought this up. I mean, there were many times that he talked about being Iran's top target yesterday. Do you know anything about the timing here? I mean, it all just seemed to be so intense in terms of his references just yesterday.
Yeah, I think this helps explain some of those statements. This intelligence was shared very recently, and we think that that's why he was making some of those statements. And this was obviously a concern to him. He has been a target of Iran in the past, but this has been on his mind, and it's come up again and again.
Tanak, do you know anything about, did they share anything about the method or how far along this plan was? Or obviously there was the development yesterday where people who were on board the old Air Force One reporters were told that they had to put down their window shades. The president said that he had not been told that by Secret Service. But do you know anything about the method or the timing of any possible plot?
No, we don't have these details right now. We just know that these 2 countries, their cooperation, their military cooperation, intelligence cooperation has really reached unprecedented levels in this war. It's gotten much closer. We have tankers parked at the Tel Aviv Ben Gurion airport. We have, you have Israeli officials all over, in different situation rooms in the U.S. And so this is not unusual, but, this is a different level of threat. And yeah, it obviously got Trump's attention.
So what you think about that?
To me, along well, Leonard, that makes me think about like it's just another excuse for them to come together, Israel and America militarily.
Right, and then like I was saying with them blocking the merger of the military and all that, notice what it said, how it was worded. Israel is telling America what Iran is planning to do, when the whole time they planning to do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
That's what it seemed like to me. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna play this right here. I thought this was some interesting information. We'll chop it up or talk about it. Played a little bit of it the other day.
In the beginning, 200 watchers descended from heaven. They took wives. They taught forbidden knowledge. Their offspring became giants, and the world was permanently altered. Because of their crimes, God punished them and flooded the entire earth. That's the version most people know, or at least the version most people think they know. Because the deeper we dug into the book of Enoch, the stranger the story became.
The real question is, what were the Watchers? Were they angels? Were they gods? Were they some sort of interdimensional border patrol? Because once we start asking what the ancient world really thought about angels, you quickly realize that the answer is nothing like what we've been taught.
The English word watcher comes from the Greek, egregori, which means those who are awake, those who keep watch. This is where the later term Grigori comes from. But here's the important part. Grigori is not originally a species of angel.
Yeah, check this out again. I'm gonna check this here. It sparked something in me. Check it out.
Those who keep watch.
Back up.
This is where the later term.
Here you go.
The English word watcher comes from the Greek, egregori, which means those who are awake, those who...
See that right there? Those who are awake. Remember what David always telling the Lord of hosts?
Yes, sir.
Awake,
Yes,
awake,
sir.
and come forth, shine, all that. Okay, it hit me when I heard that.
This is where the later term Grigori comes from. But here's the important part. Grigori is not originally a species of angel. The term is just a title, like a job description. So we don't technically know what kind of angels these things were. And the Watchers do not originate in the book of Enoch. They appear in the book of Daniel. In Daniel 4, Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. A holy watcher descends from heaven. It's not described as evil or fallen. It's just a heavenly authority figure.
So what exactly do the Watchers watch? I guess the most obvious answer would be humanity. The term implies cosmic surveillance, oversight, maybe guardianship. But either way, we are being monitored. So the question becomes, what are they watching us for? It is implied in pretty much all the translations that there must be some sort of Earth project happening here. And both the angels and the humans are morally, I don't want to use the word manipulated, but that's what I'm going to use, into thinking that stepping outside of the guardrails of that experiment is inherently sinful for some reason.
By the time we arrive at the Watcher's descent, the story feels very different than it did when we first encountered it. In the earliest English translation produced by Richard Lawrence in 1821, the sons of heaven become enamored with human women. Lust is impulsive. Lust is reckless. Lust belongs to a moment. The word enamored suggests fascination, obsession, and a growing attachment, something contemplated rather than merely indulged.
And what follows is not the behavior of beings acting upon their impulses. The Watchers come together and they approach their leader Semyaza with a whole plan. And Semyaza does not rush headlong into rebellion. In fact, he hesitates. He fears the consequences. He worries that the others may lose their nerve and leave him alone to bear the punishment. Before anything happens, the Watchers gather together and they swear an oath. The text says that they bound themselves by mutual execrations. That means mutual curses. This is a magical pact, a promise that none would turn back and that none would abandon the undertaking once it began. And the undertaking itself is described in a curious way. Lawrence renders it as their projected undertaking, not temptation, not passion, an undertaking. This, in a way, is a project for them. They are choosing to do something insane because they feel it is what should be done. The Watchers are not stumbling into sin. They are committing themselves to a course of action whose consequences they already fully understand.
Then comes another mystery. Modern translation tells us the Watchers descend upon Mount Hermon during the days of Jared. But Lawrence's translation preserves a very different reading. The 200 descend upon a place called Ardis, described as the summit of Mount Armon. What is clear is that the descent occurs in the days of Jared. Generations before Noah and before Enoch himself rises to prominence in the narrative. The corruption begins long before the flood. By the time humanity becomes aware of what has happened, the process is already underway. It's too late. And abnormally large offspring, the story would likely have ended there. Ancient mythology is filled with tales of gods and heavenly beings pursuing human women. By itself, there's nothing especially unique about that. What makes the Book of Enoch different is that the marriages are not presented as the primary crime. The problem is when the Watchers begin to teach.
After describing the descent and the taking of wives, the text immediately shifts attention from the unions themselves and towards the knowledge that follows them. Because one by one, the Watchers start revealing the secrets of heaven, skills, arts, sciences, and mysteries that humanity apparently did not possess beforehand.
The figure standing at the center of that transmission is Azazel. According to the Ge'ez, Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates.
Modern translations often like to smooth out a lot of this material. Charles, in this version, for example, transforms portions of Azazel's teachings into metallurgy, the working of metals, and the use of antimony and precious stones. Jewelry is naughty. And yet the Ge'ez preserves several strange details that later translators appear less comfortable with. And nowhere is that more obvious than in one of the most unusual phrases in the entire Book of the Watchers.
According to Lawrence, the Ge'ez says that Azazel taught the fabrication of what he identifies as mirrors. But when we examine his notes, it becomes clear that he's not actually translating a straightforward word from mirror. Instead, Lawrence admits that the underlying phrase appears to describe something closer to making them see that which was behind them. Faced with a phrase that resists easy explanation, Lawrence appears to have settled on mirrors because mirrors accomplish precisely that function. They allow a person to see what's behind them. And Azazel is not acting alone. Other Watchers began teaching their own specialities. One teaches sorcery, another teaches incantations. Others teach the dividing of roots and trees, knowledge associated with plants, medicines, and perhaps even poisons. Barakiel teaches astrology. Kokobel teaches the constellations. Tamiel teaches astronomy. Azaradel teaches the course of the moon. The Watchers are not simply sharing information, they are distributing disciplines. Now, some of these teachings become stranger the closer we examine them. For example, astrology, okay? Jewish tradition had already had the Mazzaroth. Humans had long observed the heavens. And weapons existed way before metallurgy. People had been hunting and fighting and killing each other for a millennia. This raises the possibility that perhaps the Watchers weren't exactly introducing brand new concepts, but revealing hidden uses, maybe hidden principles and hidden knowledge concealed within things that humanity already possessed. The same question emerges from Azazel's mirror teaching. He made them see that which was behind them. If the phrase refers to something beyond simple reflective surfaces, we may be dealing not with technology at all, but with altered perception, divination, possibly even necromancy. Now, a more benign read would be perhaps he gave us the ability to self-reflect or to record history. The text never explains, and translators will never agree on this, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes this particular passage so intriguing. This is one of the reasons the Watchers are so difficult to dismiss as nothing more than lustful angels. Everything about their behavior suggests organization. Earlier, they swore an oath. Earlier, they bound themselves by mutual execration. Now, each member of this group seems to possess a particular area of expertise that gets passed on to humanity. This may explain why the punishment that follows seems so disproportionate if sex alone is the crime. Throughout the text, God's anger repeatedly returns to the revelation of hidden things, the disclosure of heavenly secrets, the transmission of knowledge that humanity was apparently not meant to possess yet. The marriages opened the door, but the teachings transformed the whole world. The central question of the Book of the Watchers changes completely. The story is no longer asking why heavenly beings desired human women. It's asking why heavenly beings chose to live as humans and gave humanity access to knowledge that heaven had chosen to withhold.
Okay, what you think?
Shalom. There's a lot of information people need to look into.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yes, sir. I know a lot of people don't think.
Yeah, she gave me for him too.
Right. I was just about to say, because of Book of Enoch, a lot of people don't think you should read that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, okay. So I got this right here. Then we're gonna go into we're gonna pick a scripture. Then we're going to Q&A. Okay, check this out.
The dead teen's messages deleted after his body washes ashore? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
Eighteen-year-old football star Nolan Wells heads to Horn Island with his friends to celebrate the 4th of July. But hours later, after he doesn't return to shore, his friends report him missing, launching a desperate search across the water.
They met that day, and it was kind of one of those things. It did come off that day that he really did like her, but that was the only time they've ever hung out at Horn Island on July 4th.
We're thinking, can y'all please call?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
From our friends at GMA, no, everyone was not on board. Nolan was not on board. And who's the mysterious girl he met for the very first time the day he goes missing? His body spotted by the United Cajun Navy, washed ashore. We have obtained that photo. We were choosing tonight not to show it. That last sound from our friends at NBC, joining me in all-star panel, but first straight out to Todd Terrell, representing the United Cajun Navy, participating in the water search for Nolan Wells. Todd, thank you for being with us. What did you observe?
You know, Horn Island, that area right there is an area that we have seaplanes that we operate back and forth to the island, taking people back and forth fishing, or oil field workers, you know, back off to rigs and stuff. That morning, the body was observed on the northwest portion of Horn Island, which is not unusual for someone to drown and be washed up in that area. there was a park ranger that was on the island that actually had spotted the body, and we were calling in down to law enforcement officials on the ground what we saw from the air.
Todd Terrell, joining us from the United Cajun Navy, called in to participate in the water search for this young star athlete, Nolan Wells. Tonight, mystery swirling around his death. How is it that a group of his friends go out on a boat? They go to a remote Horn Island. There is nobody there. It's uninhabited. There are no phones. There are no bathrooms. It's just a hangout place. How does he end up dead on the shore and everybody else makes it back? I want you to hear one more time what the group is saying about that day.
They met that day, and it was kind of one of those things. It did come off that day that he really did like her, but that was the only time they've ever hung out, was at Horn Island on July 4th.
Any pizza for $9.99 should mean stuffed crust too.
What, if anything, did she have to do, if there is a she, with Nolan's death? That's from our friends at GMA. Back to you, Todd Terrell. And I'm about to go to Caitlin Becker, senior national correspondent, New York Post, on the story from the get-go. Todd, you stated to me that it's, quote, not unusual for bodies to wash ashore in that spot. What do you mean by that? Because if it was that common, wouldn't this be designated a dangerous area and there would be warning signs? What do you mean it's not unusual? I find that hard to believe.
Well, many areas along the coast of the whole Gulf Coast area is a dangerous area. You know, I don't believe they could put up signs anywhere. I think it should be known that these are bad areas. The rip current is very bad in that northwestern portion. We call it the washing machine, actually. It's an area where the current just rolls round and round in there, kind of like a washing machine. And one of the interesting things was where Nolan was found was probably pretty close to where the incident occurred. So the body didn't go that far.
Okay, what incident? Was there an incident? Are you suggesting Todd Terrell, joining us tonight from the United Cajun Navy, our friends, by the way, at the United Cajun Navy? They are called in on many missing persons case. Todd, you stated the incident. What incident? You mean he didn't drown?
We're saying that whatever happened, we're calling an incident. Our job as United Cajun Navy is to bring people home back to their families, first of all alive, second of all recover the body if possible. We knew in this case the time frame that was involved that we were looking for a recovery at this point. But when I said the incident, something happened to make Nolan not be with us anymore. It appears as though it was a drowning. You know, there was a lot of rumors about him being brought back to the land 10 miles away and you know, brought back out there and dumped off. I don't believe any of that is true. Whatever happened in that water, we're calling the incident. You know, the water goes from 2 to 3 foot to like 20 feet real quick. You know, there was some underage kids out there drinking. It's an island, you know, there's no IDs being checked or anything like that. So we said an incident, there's anything that could have happened. And not every person that drowns do you hear screaming and hooping and hollering. But at this point, our job was to bring Nolan home, and we did that.
What was observed? Guys, you're seeing right now from our friends at the United Cajun Navy, the video.
Just kind of hanging out in the area on the island, and there was numerous other boats in the area, you know, circling and looking. But the body was found by a park ranger as it washed up on the beach.
You know, very curious, Todd. Guys, joining us, Todd Terrell with United Cajun Navy. When I said, was anyone else on the island when Nolan's body was found? Your answer was completely 100% accurate, but let me rephrase and refine my question. You're saying the park ranger found him. That leads me to believe there were no friends. There was no newly met girlfriend. So am I left to believe that he goes out swimming all on his own and the friend girl leaves, the mates from school leave, everybody just leaves him out in the water and he dies and then just conveniently washes ashore? Somebody just left him out of the water. Does that make sense to you, Todd Terrell?
Well, you know, being a person that goes to this island and several other areas that you can only get to by boat, we have some restaurant back in with somebody. And there's where the issue becomes. Who did he hitch a ride back in exactly? How were these people connected to him? How did they know him? And it's not uncommon for you not to know somebody at all and just say, hey, I need a ride back in. They say, yeah, come on, get in the boat with us. So if I say, hey, Nancy, come on, get in the boat with us, that means at that point we're responsible for you.
But Todd, here's my issue. Again, I agree with what you said, but I can't tell that from what I'm hearing. The friend says, get off me, get that off this boat, F you, bro. Now, the voice we believe is Nolan's is, give my effing phone. What the F are you doing? And then another voice, get off me, get the F off this boat, F you. Okay, what do we know? And Caitlin Becker, joining us from New York Post, who is this mysterious friend girl? Because I want to talk to her.
I want to talk to her too, Nancy. The video is tough. The Snapchat is really tough because you do clearly hear an angry altercation. There is the assumption that we're working off of that it is Nolan. However, a few other friends have confirmed it's not Nolan. There's actually someone who said it was me, not him. So you have someone coming forward saying that is not him on the video. So then did no altercation actually take place, or is
partying with each other, if accounts are true? Then he leaves to go back to the boat with his friends. But according to the friends, he stayed with her. Right there, that is a conflict. That doesn't fit. Now, Caitlin Becker and the rest of the panel, I want you to hear this.
Is that Nolan in the video?
I can't tell, it's too far away, but in that video, I feel like the voices are too clear. Like from the side, it's too clear for it to be that far away, for it to be Nolan arguing. And then also that altercation, it sounds just like my other friend that got into the altercation on the boat. And they were trying to, like, as he was in the altercation, I was calming him down. They were trying to get him out off the island. They were trying to get him back to land because he was just losing it.
Okay, so you've got, that's from our friend Harvey Levin at TMZ. So you've got half the people saying that is Nolan, that's in an altercation and is getting thrown off the boat. And then you got half the people going, oh, no, that's not him. But to me, the clear problem is that critical moment where Katie, if she exists, says he went back with his friends. And the friends say, oh, no, we left. He wanted to stay with her. Right there. That is the first conflict. Both cannot be true. Those cannot mutually exist in truth. They're mutually exclusive. He can't go with them and stay with her on Horn Island. Right there, John Mobley is joining me, high-profile lawyer out of Charleston, South Carolina. John, that's where it starts. That lie. I don't know who's lying, but somebody's lying. Right there, Mobley.
Well, I don't know that I would necessarily agree with you on that. I think they can be both partially true depending on perspective. I think one thing we have to kind of keep in mind with this is we have a lot of different people telling things from different perspectives, from their own individual perspectives. It's certainly conceivable that he let his friends leave to stay with the female, if he was with a female, as soon as that happened. And once he finished his communication or whatever he was doing with the female, he told her he was leaving to go back with his friends. And from her standpoint, he said he was going back with his friends, which does not necessarily mean they were the same friends that dropped him off. So I would disagree with you on that.
Hold on. Here's the drink that flushes the sugar out of your veins and makes poor circulation disappear.
Okay, you got anything so far? You got a little more.
After you finish, brother Leonard.
Okay.
College, he would say, Dad, well, we're gonna ride down to a party or something in another city. So I was telling him, look, if you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group. I always say safety is in numbers. And he always said, yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group? I don't know.
We went in his Snapchat. He had 2 accounts, absolutely nothing. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat. And I was just like, that can't be. Like, I've seen Nolan
whenever he snaps. Like when he goes and he's having fun, like he does videos. Like there was absolutely nothing, no saved videos. And even my sister was like, yeah, that's suspicious,
Right.
you know.
That is Nolan's family, the family lawyer with our friends at GMA and PBS. Caitlin Becker with us, senior national correspondent, New York Post, star of NY Postcast. Caitlin, a lot right there. Okay, you got Crump, and he's saying it is not Nolan's character to have stayed behind to start with, or much less without his phone. He identifies the conflict that we have identified tonight between the two stories. The dad insists he would never have parted with all of his friends. And last but not least, we're hearing not only did Snapchats disappear, but that Nolan was a videographer, a photographer. He always took pictures of the fun times he was having, moments with his friends, games, the whole shebang. But they're all gone. There are not any. I also find that disturbing, Caitlin.
It's a little odd that there was nothing on the phone seemingly from that day. That does strike me as odd. I do want to push back a little or set the stage a little bit for what this day was like. There were multiple boats going out at the same time to this island. They were filling up with a few teams.
The water in that area is warm, so his body is going to be decomposing. He'll have skin slippage. He's going to have bloating from the decompositional gases, and then purge fluid.
Okay, what you got?
Shalom. To me, Brother Leonard, those people trying to excuse the friends.
Yeah, exactly. Like what she just done. He talking about why there ain't no photos, and she talking about some bullshit. They ain't making no sense. Yeah, go ahead.
Nah, just that. I feel the same way. While I was even listening to the guy that they was talking to, I'm like, he's trying to excuse the friends when no matter what these people he went out there with, he didn't come back with. So they the ones who need to be doing the most talking to.
Exactly.
You know, they trying to talk about, well, it was a lot of boat traffic that day. Man,
right.
What are y'all talking about?
And then the crazy part about that is, like his daddy was saying, go with the same people you been out there with. But them same people got to be the ones he growing up with. He been hanging with forever.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing, to Brother Leonard, that I know, you know, people send their kids to like private schools and things like that, you know, for like hopes of better opportunities and things. But I was even looking at some of those pictures that they said were deleted off his phone. And, you know, he went to a school with all white boys. So, you know, so that's also dangerous.
Oh yeah.
And I know a lot of parents don't understand that, but you know, guys that play sports and stuff, you know, white boys at that age, that's actually very dangerous to be the only black one.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then the way the setting they had too, and on the water too.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yes, sir. Because then those kind of kids, their parents have access to places like that.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. And then their parents are fluent. However, their parents bleed, they bleed. And you gotta always remember you're in Mississippi. Okay.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep it update on that. We're gonna, you know, okay. We're gonna pick a scripture. We'll read that scripture. Then we go into our Q&A. We'll send a link out in case somebody got something.
Oh, yes, sir. And my scripture, Brother Leonard, I'll read. This is Enoch, Enoch 20.
Okay.
And because Brother Leonard, it's a different translation. So the verse is a little different. If Enoch 19, verse 3, and then just through Enoch 20, verse 6. It's just basically Enoch 20 verses 1 through 6. And it
Okay.
says, yes, sir. It says, and I, Enoch, alone saw the likeness of the end of all things, nor, excuse me, and I, Enoch, I alone saw the likeness of the end of all things, nor did any human being see it as I saw it. These are the names of the angels who watch. Uriel, one of the holy angels who presides over clamor and terror. Raphael, one of the holy angels who presides over the spirits of men. Raguel, one of the holy angels who inflicts punishment on the world and the luminaries. Michael, one of the holy angels who presides over human virtue and commands the nations. Sarakel, one of the holy angels who presides over the spirits of the children of men that transgress. And Shalom, that was the Lawrence translation, Enoch 20 through 1 through 6.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Shalom.
Notice what that says. It says that he made a point, just like when we see the Lord of Hosts doing, and where I see so many people getting discombobulated. That is, he just said, "I alone," right?
Right.
And then not only that, he even go even further. I alone saw it, no human.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And JC, he in the bosom of the Father, and he a human.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy, man. So and then on top of that, which I never really, it just dawned on me. He said it's what he saw. They wrote down after he said that. So he said he saw the seven. See that?
Right. Yes, sir.
He said, I alone, and no human saw this. Then he explained what he saw. He saw the seven. He saw Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and no other human saw it.
Mm.
Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
You just hit me. Okay, yeah. Ain't that something?
Come on. And brother Leonard, because this one, I got a few of them translations of Enoch after we was talking about it. And so this one, the Lawrence translation, like in
Right.
the other Enochs I got doesn't say this about Michael, that he commands the nations. It says he's over the best part of mankind and over chaos.
Right.
Right, yes, sir. So we were just talking about the watchers and holy ones. So I wanted to show him how you tell him who the Lord of Hosts was. But I never, like you said, when he mentioned that he alone saw it, I'm like, dang, I don't think that ever occurred to me either, that he said that. And then,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. And then he even go to point to make a point to say no human.
Right.
He the only human seen it.
Right.
So that's big. Okay.
Sure.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, what's that? Oh yeah, he the son of man, right?
Right. Yeah, he a human. He supposed to be part man, part human, right? Part divine, part human.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was his purpose to come to earth as a human. So, just told you right here, he the only one to deal with the angels. So how the Most High got a son hidden in the bosom? He don't know nothing. He ain't seen the angels.
Come on.
Huh?
Come on.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, with that being said, so I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A. You got anything?
Oh, brother Leonard, just one question. You dealing with the angels in Psalms 82. Who's the Lord of Hosts talking to right here? Excuse me. In 6 and 7, and it says, I have said you are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall unalive like men and fall like one of the princes.
That's Michael talking.
Right, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
But he's talking to the angels, the watchers.
Okay.
What verse was that?
Psalms 82 and verses 6 and 7.
Start at 1.
Right. And God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods.
So that's Michael judging among mighty and God, same thing, right?
Right.
Lowercase and God, them angels. So Michael judging among the angels. He are my angel. Keep going.
How long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah. Defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All of the foundations of the earth are out of course. I have said, you are gods, and all of you are the children of the Most High, but you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations.
Right. So that take you back to Exodus 23 and 20. That's the reason Lord lead this the angel right here that he left. Like you just said, he's over chaos, right?
Right.
What's chaos? Transgression, sin. Okay. And then another thing about it, which is the crazy part about it, well, we didn't got so far off of it, is what he just said to the angels. He an angel amongst angels telling them that, is that not what David telling men, the men of Israel? David doing the same thing amongst the men. Telling them, I keep on showing that, judge the poor, judge the widow. I mean, take care of the widow, all that. Ain't that what Boaz is doing?
Right, sir.
Okay, yeah. So that's the order right there.
Right.
Right. Ain't that something?
Okay, sir.
Okay. You got anything else? You got anybody else coming on?
Yeah, no, sir. That's all I had right there.
Okay, so with that being said, let me say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. We got our reading through the Tanak tonight. Reading through the Tanak tonight, tomorrow night. We said it starts at 7 p.m. And end at 9 p.m. Central Time. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who the God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanak, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel. And it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.